Yesterday afternoon, Donald Trump was hit with some disastrous news. Special Counsel Jack Smith has reindicted Donald Trump in his Washington, D.C. based election interference trial. Now, you may remember that Jack Smith was hit with presidential immunity by the Supreme Court earlier this year. But this new indictment is going to disregard official presidential acts, so that way the trial can continue going forward with these devastating charges. How did this happen, and where does the most important Trump trial stand? We will answer all of that and more in this Trump trials update. To start, Donald Trump was first indicted in Washington, D.C. on August 1st, 2023, over a year ago on criminal charges to interfere with the presidential election. This indictment specifically is tied to him sending out a team of lawyers and political operatives to interfere with the state's counts, stop elector voting, and finally encourage the mob of supporters to assault the Capitol on January 6th. His specific charges were conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, conspiracy of an attempt to obstruct official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Those rights being the rights of citizens to have their vote counted by Congress to certify the president. These four charges essentially accuse him of 1. Trying to stop legally outlined and required government processes from happening, which is illegal, and 2. Planning to stop official government proceedings from happening, which is also illegal. Now, we don't have the many hours needed to pick apart this entire indictment, but the important facts of this case are that both indictments were passed by a grand jury of DC residents who were shown evidence from the case, and they were just regular people, not just the judge and prosecutor. Each charge Trump has received has a maximum sentence of 20 years each, meaning he could receive 80 years total for this case. Trump was able to stall this trial for months, pleading presidential immunity, which he was eventually granted by the Supreme Court. And this, of course, led many to believe that this case would actually die out. However, prosecutor Jack Smith jumped quickly into action to gather a new randomly selected grand jury, showing them evidence, drafting a new indictment, and getting the jury to vote to pursue charges. And with that, he indicted Trump a second time and is now sending this new indictment back to the same judge. Now, this is significant because Smith has specifically drafted this new indictment to focus on the actions that Trump took that were not as presidential duties. This means the trial has been refocused to look around anything that would fall under presidential immunity, preventing the case from being thrown out. An example of this would be the new indictment calling Trump a presidential candidate, which focuses on actions he took with personal lawyers and campaign advisors, not the things he did as president in the White House. The important distinction is that if President Trump tries to order the Justice Department to do something illegal, he could plead immunity. But if the Trump campaign, which is not a part of the executive office at all, paid lawyers to draft fake elector letters and send them to Congress, that does not fall under presidential immunity. Smith may have had to trim some fat from that case, but he's definitely determined to see this trial go through. His determination is also indicative of something else as well. With this new indictment, the trial period will essentially be reset, meaning Trump will not actually go to trial for months, likely not until at least spring of 2025. By restarting this trial, Jack Smith is telling us two things. 1, he doesn't think that Trump can win the 2024 election. There would be no point in starting over a completely new year-and-a-half-long federal case that Trump could pardon himself for as president unless you don't think Trump will be president. Besides, there are other trials against Trump that could take the forefront if Smith thought that Trump would win this election. Secondly, Smith is also telling us that if Trump loses the election, he also believes that the Supreme Court may not want to protect him. Trump is the undisputed leader and powerhouse of the Republican Party. He has been the unofficial candidate for years now, almost all of his opposition has either submitted embarrassingly or slowly left the party, and lots of other people's elections depend on his popularity. However, if he loses a second election in a row, the Republican Party may try to drop him, either peacefully or as a bit of a coup. A lot of important elections have been lost because of Trump or Trump-like rhetoric. Several important governor's races, such as those in Kentucky or Pennsylvania, were lost by MAGA. The entire red wave that was supposed to crash into Congress pittered out into just a 5-seat majority. With 3 conservative Supreme Court justices pushing 80 years old, the next president would likely have to be a Republican. Otherwise, it's likely that the liberal wing would take back control of the Supreme Court. The point of all this is to say that if Donald Trump loses the next election, it could be chaos for the Republican Party. And an angry Supreme Court who is likely to lose its conservative majority under a Harris presidency, especially if she serves 8 years, may not rule in his favor if he appeals his losing election interference trial. Jack Smith is working tirelessly to keep this trial going because he knows that if Trump loses, there is a very good chance Smith could see him go to jail for his crimes. Jack Smith has previously worked for international criminal courts, so he knows how to put away a dictator and enemies of democracy. And with the re-indictment of Donald Trump this week, he's going in for the final blow. But what was your reaction to this re-indictment of Donald Trump? Do you think Trump will serve jail time in the future? Let us know what you think down in the comments below.